to my knowledge, we've had 0 confirmed cases of COVID-19 within the Coram Deo Church family. And here's what I want us to think about in this video together. That's not going to be the case forever. I've told you, this virus is part of our new reality. This is going to be with us. It's like, I'm not making a correlation here, but it's like the flu, in the sense that the flu is something you can always get, right? There's always a danger. And COVID-19 is now like that. This is something that for the rest of our lives, we potentially could get. And I want to talk about that with you for a few minutes together. Here's what I realized this week at our prayer meeting. I realized that I think I've been relating to, and maybe you have too, been relating to COVID-19 on sort of a pass-fail basis or a success-failure basis, right? Like success is never getting this virus, and failure is getting this virus. I don't know why I'm thinking that way. We don't think that way about a cold or about the flu. It's something that if you get it, you get it, and you don't treat that as some kind of failure. But I think our thinking is so elevated about COVID-19 right now. The danger for us is if I get COVID-19, I will feel like a failure in some way. Like I failed to do the right things, I failed to follow the right protocols, somehow I messed something up. And that may not be the case. Maybe I just got the virus in the way that lots of people get the virus, through basic ways that viruses are transmitted. So let's think together for a few minutes as a church family about how we're going to respond when someone in our church comes down with COVID-19. Let's say it's you. Maybe it's a Wednesday or a Thursday. All of a sudden you feel like you have a fever. You have a dry cough. You're realizing, I have some of the symptoms that go with this disease. Maybe you're going to call your doctor. Maybe your doctor says, hey, why don't you get a COVID-19 test? Let's say that happens and you test positive. And you're realizing, I might have had this for 5 or 6 days and I'm just now experiencing the symptoms. Here's what I want to ask that we would do. I want to ask that you and we as a church family would, as much as we're willing to, let one another know about that reality. And so here's what I'd like to do as we prepare to move back toward gathering together for worship regularly every week. I want to ask you that if you test positive for COVID-19, that you would call the front desk at the church office and talk to my friend Becca and just let her know. In fact, let's go meet Becca right now. This is Becca. She is the Coram Deo office assistant. And that's who you're going to call. All right, so if you have the virus or suspect you do, I want you to call and let Becca know. Here's why. Because then we as a church can try to take responsibility for doing our part to get in touch with people who might have been in close contact with you the previous Sunday. And just let them know, hey, someone that you connected with has come down with the virus and we thought you should know. Now, my guess is the county health department is going to be doing that anyway. They're going to want to trace the people you were in contact with. Why do we want to try to do that as a church as well? Because I think it's a way we can be proactively loving toward one another and try to just keep track over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. Hey, how many people in our church have had the virus, and what does that mean for how we need to think as a church about our ongoing, protocols and how we're trying to, is there things we could be doing better or differently as a church? We want to do the best we can as a whole church family to operate safely and effectively, and knowing actual real-time data helps us with that. I hope that none of us will get COVID-19. But that's probably not realistic. And actually, probably some of us already have. I know there's been some of you that are like, I had some of these symptoms, but it was back in March when they were saying, like, you can't get a test unless you're on your deathbed. And so perhaps many of us have already come down with this disease. There's some of that we'll just never know. But what I'm trying to acknowledge as we move forward is, hey, there's going to come a time when some people in our church come down with COVID-19 symptoms, and we want to respond wisely and proactively in that moment for the sake of ensuring the health of our whole church family and loving one another well. So I want to ask that we'd sort of take that approach as we go forward. Now, here's what I'll say. You have Hipaa rights. You're an American. You don't have to let us know if you're sick. You don't have to let anybody know that the government doesn't say you have to let know. However, you'll notice that in all of this COVID stuff, right, the concerns for everyone else need to outweigh the concern for your own personal privacy. And so in a lot of cases, they're saying, hey, look, we're going to call everybody that you've been in contact with for the last 7 days and let them know that you came down with the virus. And so I just want to tell you, I'm not mandating this. I actually have no authority to tell you you have to let the church know. I'm asking you as your pastor, hey, would you let us know if you have symptoms or test positive for COVID-19 so that we can do our part to be proactive in how we care for the rest of the church body and people who may have been around you a previous Sunday or at a previous gospel community gathering or whatever, okay? So I think if we can head into the season ahead of us with that kind of understanding together, it will really help us love one another well, and it'll help us as a church try to feel and act proactively about our response to the sort of ongoing reality that we now live in a world where COVID-19 is a reality. Now, let me talk real briefly about this coming Sunday, and then I'll let you go. First of all, the weather report, tenuous. Maybe it'll rain, maybe it won't. Some chance of rain right now, but again, I'm filming this on a Thursday, so here's what you need to know. The plan is we gather outside in the parking lot again. If there is rain, the backup plan is you'll just stay in your car, use your FM radio. We will still lead worship and preach from a covered location, and you can pick all of that up in your car. So our fallback plan will just be a standard FM car radio service. The second thing I need to say to you is this. The plan is gather in the parking lot outside like we did last week, and then if you want to listen on FM radio, you can park and listen. But a lot of folks last week gathered and brought lawn chairs and blankets, and we had a great time gathering outside. However, you could have been a little more distant from each other. I mean, there was a big gap where no one was, it was like a bad youth group where everybody sits in the back 3 rows and like the front 7 rows are totally empty. That's a little how it felt last week. It's okay with me if you sit in the first 7 rows. Go ahead and spread out a little bit. Leave a little room between you and the family unit next to you. We want to love one another well. We want to follow all health department protocols. We want to make sure that we're gathering in a way that honors what our authorities are asking of us. So, hey, keep that 6 feet of distance between you and the folks next to you on Sunday. All right? Thanks. I will see you Sunday. I'll be leading liturgy. Pastor Justin will be preaching, and I look forward to being there with you in the parking lot.